Video 3. Rotate and crop. Crop images. Crop an image using the crop tool. 1. Select the crop tool. 2. Optional. Set resample options in the options bar. To crop the image without resampling, default, make sure that the resolution text box in the options bar is empty. You can click the Clear button to quickly clear all text boxes. To resample the image during cropping, enter values for the height, width, and resolution in the options bar. The crop tool won't resample the image unless the width and/or height and the resolution are provided. If you've entered height and width dimensions and want the values quickly exchanged, click the Swap Height and Width icon. To resample an image based on the dimensions and resolution of another image, open the other image, select the crop tool, and click Front Image in the options bar. Then make the image you want to crop active. Resampling while cropping uses the default interpolation method in the General Preferences. 3. Drag over the part of the image you want to keep to create a marquee. The marquee doesn't have to be precise. You can adjust it later. 4. If necessary, adjust the cropping marquee. To move the marquee to another position, place the pointer inside the bounding box and drag. To scale the marquee, drag a handle. To constrain the proportions, hold down Shift as you drag a corner handle. To rotate the marquee, position the pointer outside the bounding box. The pointer turns into a curved arrow, and drag. To move the center point around which the marquee rotates, drag the circle at the center of the bounding box. Marquee can't be rotated in bitmap mode. 5. Set options to hide or shield the cropped portions. Specify whether you want to use a cropping shield to shade the area of the image that will be deleted or hidden. When Shield is selected, you can specify a color and opacity for the cropping shield. When Shield is deselected, the area outside the cropping marquee is revealed. Specify whether you want to hide or delete the cropped area. Select Hide to preserve the cropped area in the image file. You can make the hidden area visible by moving the image with the Move tool. Select Delete to discard the cropped area. The Hide option is not available for images that contain only a background layer. If you want to crop a background by hiding, convert the background to a regular layer first. 6. Do one of the following. To complete the crop, press Enter in Windows or Return in macOS. Click the Commit button in the options bar or double-click inside the cropping marquee. To cancel the cropping operation, press Escape or click the Cancel button in the options bar. Crop an image using the Crop command. 1. Use a selection tool to select the part of the image you want to keep. 2. Choose Image, Crop. Crop an image using the Trim command. The Trim command crops an image by removing unwanted image data in different ways than the Crop command. You can crop an image by trimming surrounding transparent pixels or background pixels of the color you specify. 1. Choose Image, Trim. 2. In the Trim dialog box, select an option. Transparent pixels to trim away transparency at the edges of the image, leaving the smallest image containing non-transparent pixels. Top left pixel color to remove an area the color of the upper left pixel from the image. Bottom right pixel color to remove an area the color of the lower right pixel from the image. 3. Select one or more areas of the image to trim away, top, bottom, left, or right. Transform perspective while cropping. The Crop tool has an option that lets you transform the perspective in an image. This is very useful when working with images that contain keystone distortion. Keystone distortion occurs when an object is photographed from an angle rather than from a straightened view. For example, if you take a picture of a tall building from ground level, the edges of the building appear closer to each other at the top than they do at the bottom. 1. Select the Crop tool and set the crop mode. 2. Drag the cropping marquee around an object that was rectangular in the original scene, although it doesn't appear rectangular in the image. You'll use the edges of this object to define the perspective in the image. The marquee doesn't have to be precise. You'll adjust it later. 3. Select Perspective in the Options bar and set the other options as desired. 4. Move the corner handles of the cropping marquee to match the object's edges. This defines the perspective in the image, so it's important to precisely match the object's edges. 5. Drag the side handles to extend the cropping bounds while preserving the perspective. Do not move the center point of the cropping marquee. The center point needs to be in its original position in order to perform perspective correction. 6. Do one of the following. Press Enter. Click the Commit button in the Options bar, or double-click inside the cropping marquee. To cancel the operation, press Escape or click the Cancel button in the Options bar. Rotate or flip an entire image. The image rotation commands let you rotate or flip an entire image. The commands do not work on individual layers or parts of layers, paths, or selection borders. If you want to rotate a selection or layer, use the Transform or Free Transform commands. Choose Image, Image Rotation, and choose one of the following commands from the submenu. 180 degrees rotates the image by a half turn. 90 degrees clockwise rotates the image clockwise by a quarter turn. 90 degrees counterclockwise rotates the image counterclockwise by a quarter turn. Arbitrary rotates the image by the angle you specify. If you choose this option, enter an angle between negative 359.99 or 359.99 in the angle text box. Then click OK. 4. Basic color correction. Apply the Variations command. The Variations command lets you adjust the color balance, contrast, and saturation of an image by showing you thumbnails of alternatives. This command is most useful for average key images that don't require precise color adjustments. It does not work on indexed color images or 16-bit per channel images. 1. Choose Image, Adjustments, Variations. The two thumbnails at the top of the dialog box show the original selection, Original, and the selection with its currently selected adjustments, Current Pick. When you first open the dialog box, these two images are the same. As you make adjustments, the Current Pick image changes to reflect your choices. 2. Select the Show Clipping option if you want to display a preview of areas in the image that are clipped, converted to pure white or pure black by the adjustment. Clipping can result in undesirable color shifts, as distinct colors in the original image are mapped to the same color. Clipping does not occur when you adjust midtones. 3. Select what to adjust in the image. Shadows, midtones, or highlights adjust the dark, middle, or light areas. Saturation changes the degree of hue in the image. If you exceed the maximum saturation for a color, it may be clipped. 4. Drag the Fine Coarse slider to determine the amount of each adjustment. Moving the slider one tick mark doubles the adjustment amount. 5. Adjust the color and brightness. To add a color to the image, click the appropriate color thumbnail. To subtract a color, click the thumbnail for its opposite color. To adjust brightness, click a thumbnail on the right side of the dialog box. The thumbnails are cumulative. For example, clicking the More Red thumbnail twice applies the adjustment twice. Each time you click a thumbnail, the other thumbnails change. The 3 Current Pick thumbnails always reflect the current choices. You can also save the settings you make in the Variations dialog box for reuse on other images. Adjust hue and saturation. 1. Do one of the following. Click the Hue Saturation icon or a Hue Saturation preset in the Adjustments panel. Choose Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue Saturation. Click OK in the New Layer dialog box. The two color bars in the dialog box represent the colors in their order on the color wheel. The upper color bar shows the color before the adjustment. The lower bar shows how the adjustment affects all of the hues at full saturation. 2. In the Adjustments panel, choose which colors to adjust using the Edit pop-up menu. Choose Master to adjust all colors at once. Choose one of the other preset color ranges listed for the color you want to adjust. 3. For hue, enter a value or drag the slider until you are satisfied with the colors. The values displayed in the box reflect the number of degrees of rotation around the wheel from the original color of the pixel. A positive value indicates clockwise rotation. A negative value, counterclockwise rotation. Values can range from negative 180 to plus 180. 4. For saturation, enter a value or drag the slider to the right to increase the saturation or to the left to decrease it. The color shifts away from or toward the center of the color wheel. Values can range from negative 100 to plus 100. 5. For lightness, enter a value or drag the slider to the right to increase the lightness or to the left to decrease it. Values can range from negative 100 to plus 100. Specify the range of colors adjusted in the Hue Saturation adjustment. 1. Do one of the following. Click the Hue Saturation icon in the Adjustments panel. Choose Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue Saturation. Click OK in the New Layer dialog box. 2. In the Adjustments panel, choose a color from the menu just above the sliders. 4 color wheel values, in degrees, appear in the Adjustments panel. They correspond to the adjustment sliders that appear between the color bars. The 2 inner vertical sliders define the color range. The 2 outer triangle sliders show where the adjustments on the color range fall off. Fall off is a feathering or tapering of the adjustments instead of a sharply defined on-off application of the adjustments. 3. Use either the eyedropper tools or the adjustment sliders to modify the range of colors. Click or drag in the image with the eyedropper tool to select a color range. To expand the range, click or drag in the image with the Add to Sample Eyedropper tool. To reduce the range of color, click or drag in the image with the Subtract from Sample Eyedropper tool. While an eyedropper tool is selected, you can also press Shift to add to the range, or Alt in Windows, or Option in macOS to subtract from it. Drag one of the white triangle sliders to adjust the amount of color fall off, feathering of adjustment, without affecting the range. Drag the area between the triangle and the vertical bar to adjust the range without affecting the amount of fall off. Drag the center area to move the entire adjustment slider, which includes the triangles and vertical bars, to select a different color area. Drag one of the vertical white bars to adjust the range of the color component. Moving a vertical bar from the center of the adjustment slider and closer to a triangle increases the color range and decreases the fall-off. Moving a vertical bar closer to the center of the adjustment slider and away from a triangle decreases the color range and increases the fall-off. Control drag in Windows or Command drag in macOS the color bar so that a different color is in the center of the bar. If you modify the adjustment slider so that it falls off into a different color range, the name in the Edit menu changes to reflect this change. For example, if you choose Yellow and alter its range so that it falls into the red part of the color bar, the name changes to Red 2. You can convert up to 6 of the individual color ranges to varieties of the same color range, for example, red through Red 6. Colorize a grayscale image or create a monotone effect. 1. If you are colorizing a grayscale image, choose Image, Mode, RGB Color to convert the image to RGB. Do one of the following to access the Hue Saturation adjustment. Click the Hue Saturation icon in the Adjustments panel. Choose Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue Saturation. Click OK in the New Layer dialog box. 3. Select the Colorize option. If the foreground color is black or white, the image is converted to a red hue, 0 degrees. If the foreground color is not black or white, the image is converted to the hue of the current foreground color. The lightness value of each pixel does not change. 4. Optional. Use the Hue slider to select a new color. Use the Saturation and Lightness sliders to adjust the saturation and lightness of the pixels. Video 5. Red eye removal and recolor. Remove red eye. The red eye tool removes red eye in flash photos of people or animals and white or green reflections in the flash photos of animals. Select the red eye tool. The red eye tool is in the same group as the spot healing brush tool. Click the triangle in the lower right portion of a tool to display additional tools. 2. Click in the red eye. If you are not satisfied with the result, undo the correction, set one or more of the following options in the options bar, and click the red eye again. Pupil size increases or decreases the area affected by the red eye tool. Darken amount sets the darkness of the correction. Replace color in image areas. The color replacement tool simplifies replacing specific colors in your image. You can paint over a targeted color with a corrective color. The color replacement tool doesn't work in images in bitmap, indexed, or multi-channel color modes. 1. Select the color replacement tool. 2. Choose a brush tip in the options bar. Generally, you should keep the blending mode set to color. 3. For the sampling option, choose one of the following. Continuous samples colors continuously as you drag. Once replaces the targeted color only in areas containing the color that you first click. Background swatch replaces only areas containing the current background color. 4. For the limits option, select one of the following. Discontiguous replaces the sampled color wherever it occurs under the pointer. Contiguous replaces colors that are contiguous with the color immediately under the pointer. Find edges replaces connected areas containing the sampled color while better preserving the sharpness of shape edges. 5. For tolerance, enter a percentage value ranging from 0 to 255 or drag the slider. Choose a low percentage to replace colors very similar to the pixel you click, or raise the percentage to replace a broader range of colors. 6. To define a smooth edge in the corrected areas, select Anti-Aliased. 7. Choose a foreground color to replace the unwanted color. 8. Click the color you want to replace in the image. 9. Drag in the image to replace the targeted color. Video 6. Clone, Heal, and Patch. Retouch with the Clone Stamp tool. The Clone Stamp tool paints one part of an image over another part of the same image or over another part of any open document that has the same color mode. You can also paint part of one layer over another layer. The Clone Stamp tool is useful for duplicating objects or removing a defect in an image. To use the Clone Stamp tool, you set a sampling point on the area you want to copy or clone the pixels from and paint over another area. To paint with the most current sampling point, whenever you stop and resume painting, select the Aligned option. Deselect the Aligned option to paint starting from the initial sampling point, no matter how many times you stop and resume painting. You can use any brush tip with the Clone Stamp tool, which gives you precise control over the size of the clone area. You can also use opacity and flow settings to control how paint will be applied to the cloned area. 1. Select the Clone Stamp tool. 2. Choose a brush tip and set brush options for the blending mode, opacity, and flow in the options bar. 3. To specify how you want to align the sampled pixels and how to sample data from the layers in your document, set any of the following in the options bar. Aligned samples pixels continuously without losing the current sampling point, even if you release the mouse button. Deselect Aligned to continue using the sampled pixels from the initial sampling point each time you stop and resume painting. Sample samples data from the layers you specify. To sample from the active layer and visible layers below it, choose Current and Below. To sample only from the active layer, choose Current Layer. To sample from all visible layers, choose All Layers. To sample from all visible layers except adjustment layers, choose All Layers and click the Ignore Adjustment Layers icon to the right of the Sample pop-up menu. 4. Set the sampling point by positioning the pointer in any open image and Alt-clicking in Windows or Option-clicking in Mac OS. 5. Optional. In the Clone Source panel, click a Clone Source button and set an additional sampling point. You can set up to 5 different sampling sources. The Clone Source panel saves the sampled sources until you close the document. 6. Optional. To select the sampled source you want, click a Clone Source button in the Clone Source panel. 7. Optional. Do any of the following in the Clone Source panel. To scale or rotate the source that you're cloning, enter a value for W, width, H, height, or the rotation in degrees. To show an overlay of the source that you're cloning, select Show Overlay and specify the overlay options. 8. Drag over the area of the image you want to correct. Retouch with the Healing Brush tool. The Healing Brush tool lets you correct imperfections, causing them to disappear into the surrounding image. Like the cloning tools, you use the Healing Brush tool to paint with sampled pixels from an image or pattern. However, the Healing Brush tool also matches the texture, lighting, transparency, and shading of the sampled pixels to the pixels being healed. As a result, the repaired pixels blend seamlessly into the rest of the image. Select the Healing Brush tool. 1. Click the brush sample in the options bar and set brush options in the pop-up panel. Mode specifies the blending mode. Choose Replace to preserve noise, film grain, and texture at the edges of the brush stroke when using a soft-edged brush. Source specifies the source to use for repairing pixels. Sampled to use pixels from the current image, or Pattern to use pixels from a pattern. If you choose a pattern, select a pattern from the Pattern pop-up menu. Aligned samples pixels continuously without losing the current sampling point, even if you release the mouse button. Deselect Aligned to continue to use the sampled pixels from the initial sampling point each time you stop and resume painting. Sample samples data from the layers you specify. To sample from the active layer and visible layers below it, choose Current and Below. To sample only from the active layer, choose Current Layer. To sample from all visible layers, choose All Layers. To sample from all visible layers except adjustment layers, choose All Layers and click the Ignore Adjustment Layers icon to the right of the sample pop-up menu. 2. Set the sampling point by positioning the pointer over an area of the image and Alt-clicking in Windows or Option-clicking in macOS. 3. Optional. In the Clone Source panel, click a Clone Source button and set an additional sampling point. You can set up to 5 different sampling sources. The Clone Source panel remembers the sampled sources until you close the document you're editing. 4. In the Clone Source panel, click a Clone Source button to select the sampled source you want. 5. Optional. Do any of the following in the Clone Source panel. To scale or rotate the source that you're cloning, enter a value for W, width, H, height, or the rotation in degrees. To show an overlay of the source that you're cloning, select Show Overlay and specify the overlay options. 6. Drag in the image. The sampled pixels are melded with the existing pixels each time you release the mouse button. Look in the status bar to view the status of the melding process. Patch tool. Repair an area using sampled pixels. 1. Select the patch tool. 2. Do one of the following. Drag in the image to select the area you want to repair and select Source in the options bar. Drag in the image to select the area from which you want to sample and select Destination in the options bar. 3. To adjust the selection, do one of the following. Shift drag in the image to add to the existing selection. Alt drag in Windows or Option drag in macOS in the image to subtract from the existing selection. Alt shift drag in Windows or Option shift drag in macOS in the image to select an area intersected by the existing selection. 4. Position the pointer inside the selection and do one of the following. If Source is selected in the options bar, drag the selection border to the area from which you want to sample. When you release the mouse button, the originally selected area is patched with the sampled pixels. If Destination is selected in the options bar, drag the selection border to the area you want to patch. When you release the mouse button, the newly selected area is patched with the sampled pixels. Repair an area using a pattern. 1. Select the Patch tool. 2. Drag in the image to select the area you want to repair. Note, you can also make a selection prior to selecting the Patch tool. 3. To adjust the selection, do one of the following. Shift drag in the image to add to the existing selection. Alt drag in Windows or Option drag in macOS in the image to subtract from the existing selection. Alt shift drag in Windows or Option shift drag in macOS in the image to select an area intersected by the existing selection. 4. Select a pattern from the Pattern panel in the options bar and click Use Pattern. Video 7. Using the selection tools. Select with the marquee tools. The marquee tools let you select rectangles, ellipses, and 1-pixel rows and columns. 1. Select a marquee tool. Rectangular marquee makes a rectangular selection or a square when used with the Shift key. Elliptical marquee makes an elliptical selection or a circle when used with the Shift key. Single row or single column marquee defines the border as a 1-pixel wide row or column. 2. Specify one of the selection options in the option bar. Selection options are New, add to, subtract from, intersect with. 3. Specify a feathering setting in the options bar. Turn anti-aliasing on or off for the elliptical marquee tool. 4. For the rectangular marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool, choose a style in the options bar. Normal determines the marquee proportions for dragging. Fixed ratio sets a height to width ratio. Enter values, decimal values are valid, for the aspect ratio. For example, to draw a marquee twice as wide as it is high, enter 2 for the width and 1 for the height. Fixed size specifies set values for the marquee's height and width. Enter pixel values in whole numbers. 5. For aligning your selection to guides, a grid, slices, or document bounds, do one of the following to snap your selection. Choose View, Snap, or choose View, Snap to, and choose a command from the submenu. The marquee selection can snap to a document boundary or to a variety of Photoshop extras controlled in the Snap to submenu. 6. Do one of the following to make a selection. With the rectangular marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool, drag over the area you want to select. Hold down Shift as you drag to constrain the marquee to a square or circle. Release the mouse button before you release Shift to keep the selection shape constrained. To drag a marquee from its center, hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS after you begin dragging. With the single row or single column marquee tool, click near the area you want to select, and then drag the marquee to the exact location. If no marquee is visible, increase the magnification of your image view. Select with the Magnetic Lasso tool. When you use the Magnetic Lasso tool, the border snaps to the edges of defined areas in the image. The Magnetic Lasso tool is not available for 32 bits per channel images. The Magnetic Lasso tool is especially useful for quickly selecting objects with complex edges set against high contrast backgrounds. 1. Select the Magnetic Lasso tool. 2. Specify one of the selection options in the options bar. Selection options are New, Add to, Subtract from, Intersect with. 3. Optional. Set feathering and anti-aliasing in the options bar. 4. Set any of these options. Width. To specify a detection width, enter a pixel value for width. The magnetic lasso detects edges only within the specified distance from the pointer. Contrast. To specify the lasso's sensitivity to edges in the image, enter a value between 1% and 100% for contrast. A higher value detects only edges that contrast sharply with their surroundings. A lower value detects lower contrast edges. Frequency. To specify the rate at which the lasso sets fastening points, enter a value between 0 and 100 for frequency. A higher value anchors the selection border in place more quickly. Stylus pressure. If you are working with a stylus tablet, select or deselect the stylus pressure option. When the option is selected, an increase in stylus pressure decreases the edge width. 5. Click in the image to set the first fastening point. Fastening points anchor the selection border in place. 6. To draw a freehand segment, either release or keep the mouse button depressed, and then move the pointer along the edge you want to trace. The most recent segment of the selection border remains active. As you move the pointer, the active segment snaps to the strongest edge in the image based on the detection width set in the options bar. Periodically, the magnetic lasso tool adds fastening points to the selection border to anchor previous segments. 7. If the border doesn't snap to the desired edge, click once to add a fastening point manually. Continue to trace the edge and add fastening points as needed. 8. To switch temporarily to the other lasso tools, do one of the following. To activate the lasso tool, hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and drag with the mouse button depressed. To activate the polygonal lasso tool, hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and click. 9. To erase recently drawn segments and fastening points, press the Delete key until you've erased the fastening points for the desired segment. 10. Close the selection border. To close the border with a freehand magnetic segment, double-click or press Enter or Return. To close the border with a straight segment, hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and double-click. To close the border, drag over the starting point and click. 11. Optional. Click Refine Edge to further adjust the selection boundary or view the selection against different backgrounds or as a mask. Select with the polygonal lasso tool. The polygonal lasso tool is useful for drawing straight edge segments of a selection border. 1. Select the polygonal lasso tool and select Options. 2. Specify one of the selection options in the Options bar. Selection options are New, Add to, Subtract from, Intersect with. 3. Optional. Set feathering and anti-aliasing in the Options bar. 4. Click in the image to set the starting point. 5. Do one or more of the following. To draw a straight segment, position the pointer where you want the first straight segment to end and click. Continue clicking to set endpoints for subsequent segments. To draw a straight line at a multiple of 45 degrees, hold down Shift as you move to click the next segment. To draw a freehand segment, hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and drag. When you finish, release Alt or Option and the mouse button. To erase recently drawn segments, press the Delete key. 6. Close the selection border. Position the polygonal lasso tool pointer over the starting point. A closed circle appears next to the pointer, and click. If the pointer is not over the starting point, double-click the polygonal lasso tool pointer or Control-click in Windows or Command-click in macOS. 7. Optional. Click Refine Edge to further adjust the selection boundary or view the selection against different backgrounds or as a mask. Select with the lasso tool. The lasso tool is useful for drawing free-form segments of a selection border. 1. Select the lasso tool and select Options. 2. Drag to draw a freehand selection of the border. 3. Specify one of the selection options in the Options bar. Selection options are New, Add to, Subtract from, Intersect with. 4. Optional. Set feathering and anti-aliasing in the Options bar. 5. To draw a straight edge selection border when no other pixels are present, press Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and click where segments should begin and end. You can switch between drawing freehand and straight edge segments. 6. To erase recently drawn segments, hold down the Delete key until you've erased the fastening points for the desired segment. 7. To close the selection border, release the mouse without holding down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS. 8. Optional. Click Refine Edge to further adjust the selection boundary or view the selection against different backgrounds or as a Video 8. Groups and Comps. Create a new layer or group. 1. Do one of the following. To create a new layer or group using default options, click the Create a New Layer button or New Group button in the Layers panel. Choose Layer, New, Layer, or choose Layer, New, Group. Choose New Layer or New Group from the Layers panel menu. 2. Set Layer Options and click OK. Name specifies a name for the layer or group. Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask. This option is not available for groups. Color assigns a color to the layer or group in the Layers panel. Mode specifies a blending mode for the layer or group. Opacity specifies an opacity level for the layer or group. Fill with mode, neutral color, fills the layer with a preset neutral color. Create a new layer with effects from another layer. Select the existing layer in the Layers panel. 2. Drag the layer to create a new layer button at the bottom of the Layers panel. The newly created layer contains all the effects of the existing one. Convert a selection into a new layer. 1. Make a selection. 2. Do one of the following. Choose Layer, New, Layer via Copy to copy the selection into a new layer. Choose Layer, New, Layer via Cut to cut the selection and paste it into a new layer. Apply and view layer comps. Do any of the following. To view a layer comp, you first need to apply it in the document. In the Layer Comp panel, click the Apply Layer Comp icon next to a selected comp. To cycle through a view of all the layer comps, use the Previous and Next buttons at the bottom of the panel. To cycle through a selected view of comps, select the comps in the Layer Comps panel, and then click the Next and Previous buttons at the bottom of the panel. This cycles through only the comps you selected. To restore the document to its state before you chose a layer comp, click the Apply Layer Comp icon next to Last Document State at the top of the Layer Comp panel. Video 9. Opacity and Blend Modes. Specify opacity for a layer or group. A layer's opacity determines to what degree it obscures or reveals the layer beneath it. A layer with 1% opacity appears nearly transparent, whereas one with 100% opacity appears completely opaque. 1. Select a layer or group in the Layers panel. 2. Do one of the following. In the Layers panel, enter a value in the opacity text box or drag the opacity pop-up slider. Choose Layer, Layer Style, Blending Options. Enter a value in the opacity text box or drag the opacity pop-up slider. Select the Move tool and type a number indicating the percentage of opacity. Blending Modes. Specify a blending mode for a layer or group. A layer's blending mode determines how its pixels blend with underlying pixels in the image. You can create a variety of special effects using blending modes. By default, the blending mode of a layer group is Pass-Through, which means that the group has no blending properties of its own. When you choose a different blending mode for a group, you effectively change the order in which the image components are put together. All of the layers in the group are put together first. The composite group is then treated as a single image and blended with the rest of the image using the selected blending mode. Thus, if you choose a blending mode other than Pass-Through for the group, none of the adjustment layers or layer blending modes inside the group will apply to layers outside the group. 1. Select a layer or group from the Layers panel. 2. Choose a blending mode. From the Layers panel, choose an option from the Blend Mode pop-up menu. Choose Layer, Layer Style, Blending Options, and then choose an option from the Blend Mode pop-up menu. Blend and Fade Filter Effects. The Fade command changes the opacity and blending mode of any filter, painting tool, erasing tool, or color adjustment. The Fade command blending modes are a subset of those in the painting and editing tools options, excluding the behind and clear modes. Applying the Fade command is similar to applying the filter effect on a separate layer and then using the layer opacity and blending mode controls. 1. Apply a filter, painting tool, or color adjustment to an image or selection. 2. Choose Edit, Fade. Select the Preview option to preview the effect. 3. Drag the slider to adjust the opacity from 0% transparent to 100%. 4. Choose a blending mode from the Mode menu. Note: the Color Dodge, Color Burn, Lighten, Darken, Difference, and Exclusion blending modes do not work on lab images. 5. Click OK. Video 1. What Photoshop can do. 1. Manipulate objects in the Adobe Bridge. This new generation of file browser enables you to look at photographs and artwork in detail before you open the file, process multiple camera raw images, flip through pages in PDF documents, size and rate and organize your work in a convenient and highly user-friendly way. 2. Get rid of imperfections with the Spot Healing Brush. The Spot Healing Brush enables you to get rid of slight imperfections, like dust or scratches at the click of a mouse. Unlike the Healing Brush or Patch tools, you don't have to find a source point first. 3. Remove red eye in an instant. With older versions of Photoshop, removing red eye and pet eye was possible, but it wasn't easy. Now, one click of the red eye removal tool can remove pet eye and red eye from your photographs. 4. Perform non-destructive scaling with smart objects. You know how it is. You try to make an imported object larger, and it goes all blurry and pixelated. With smart objects, that's a thing of the past, because you can scale, warp, and rotate vector graphics in a non-destructive way. 5. Cool perspective with Vanishing Point. With Vanishing Point, you can cut and paste in perspective. Now you're able to turn a photograph of a wall into a virtual art gallery with all the pictures correctly skewed, or move a window from one side of a building to another, and, because the perspective is correct, have it look like it's always been there. You can also draw lines that taper off into the distance, wide nearest the camera, narrow further away, just like in real life. 6. Get more accurate printing. With Photoshop, the people at Adobe have improved the printing workflow. Now it's even easier to configure your inkjet printer to get more accurate color printing. 7. Customize menus and workspaces. Photoshop lets you highlight commonly used menu items and set up custom menus and workspaces. Now, all the power of Photoshop is at your command and can be tailored to your requirements. 8. See what each font looks like before you use it. Photoshop gets a "what you see is what you get" font drop-down menu. Now you don't have to keep text highlighted while you cycle through all the fonts until you get to the right one. 9. Manipulate images with Image Warp. Image Warp allows you to bend, peel, and stretch images the same way as type. Now you can put an image on a mug or soda can with ease. 10. See video graphics while you're doing them. With Photoshop, you can preview your images on a video monitor directly from the software and see exactly how they're going to look in your video, even if your editing software is on a different computer. Video 10. Masks and Layers. Add and edit vector masks. You create vector masks with the pen or shapes tools. Add a vector mask that shows or hides the entire layer. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer you want to add the vector mask to. 2. Do one of the following. To create a vector mask that reveals the entire layer, click the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel or choose Layer, Vector Mask, Reveal All. To create a vector mask that hides the entire layer, Alt-click in Windows or Option-click in macOS the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel or choose Layer, Vector Mask, Hide All. Add a vector mask that shows the contents of a shape. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer to which to add a vector mask. 2. Select a path or use one of the shape or pen tools to draw a work path. Note: to create a path with a shape tool, click the Paths icon in the Shape Tool options bar. 3. Click the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel or choose Layer, Vector Mask, Current Path. Edit a vector mask. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer containing the vector mask you want to edit. 2. Click the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel or the thumbnail in the Paths panel. Then change the shape using the Shape, Pen, or Direct Selection tools. Change Vector Mask opacity or feather mask edges. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer containing the vector mask. 2. Click the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel. 3. In the Masks panel, drag the Density slider to adjust the mask opacity, and the Feathering slider to apply feathering to the mask edges. Remove a vector mask. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer containing the vector mask. 2. Click the Vector Mask button in the Masks panel. 3. In the Masks panel, click the Delete Mask button. Disable or enable a vector mask. Do one of the following. Select the layer containing the vector mask you want to disable or enable, and click the Disable Enable Mask button in the Masks panel. Shift-click the vector mask thumbnail in the Layers panel. Select the layer containing the vector mask you want to disable or enable, and choose Layer, Vector Mask, Disable, or Layer, Vector Mask, Enable. A red X appears over the mask thumbnail in the Layers panel when the mask is disabled, and the layer's content appears without masking effects. Convert a vector mask to a layer mask. Select the layer containing the vector mask you want to convert, and choose Layer, Rasterize, Vector Mask. Important: after you rasterize a vector mask, you can't change it back into a vector object. Add layer masks. When you add a layer mask, you need to decide if you want to hide or show all of the layer. Later, you'll paint on the mask to hide portions of that layer and reveal the layers beneath. Or you can create a layer mask that automatically hides a portion of the layer by making a selection before you create the mask. Add a mask that shows or hides the entire layer. 1. Make sure that no part of your image is selected. Choose Select, Deselect. 2. In the Layers panel, select the layer or group. 3. Do one of the following. To create a mask that reveals the entire layer, click the Pixel Mask button in the Masks panel, or click the Add Layer Mask button in the Layers panel, or choose Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. To create a mask that hides the entire layer, Alt-click in Windows or Option-click in macOS the Pixel Mask button in the Masks panel, or Alt-click in Windows or Option-click in macOS the Add Layer Mask button, or choose Layer, Layer Mask, Hide All. Add a layer mask that hides part of a layer. 1. In the Layers panel, select the layer or group. 2. Select the area in the image and do one of the following. Click the Pixel Mask button in the Masks panel or the New Layer Mask button in the Layers panel to create a mask that reveals the selection. Alt-click in Windows or Option-click in macOS the Pixel Mask button in the Masks panel, or the Add Layer Mask button in the Layers panel to create a mask that hides the selection. Choose Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection, or Hide Selection. Apply a layer mask from another layer. Do one of the following. To move the mask to another layer, drag the mask to the other layer. To duplicate the mask, Alt-drag in Windows or Option-drag in macOS the mask to the other layer. Video 2. Navigation and Resolution. Zooming an image. Do any of the following. Select the Zoom tool and click either the Zoom In or Zoom Out button in the options bar. Then click the area you want to zoom in or out. Select the Zoom tool. The pointer becomes a magnifying glass with a plus sign in its center. Click the center of the area that you want to magnify. Hold down Alt in Windows or Option in macOS and click the center of the area that you want to reduce. Select the Zoom tool and then click-hold in the image for a continuous motion smooth zoom in. Alt-click-hold in Windows or Option-click-hold in macOS to continuously zoom out. Select the Zoom tool and drag a dotted rectangle marquee around the area you want to magnify. To move the marquee around the artwork, hold down the spacebar and continue dragging until the marquee is in the desired location. Choose View, Zoom In, or View, Zoom Out. The Zoom In or Zoom Out command becomes unavailable when the maximum image magnification or reduction is reached. Set the zoom level at the lower left corner of the document window or in the Navigator panel. Scrolling and panning. Use the Windows scroll bars. Select the Hand tool and drag to pan over the image. To use the Hand tool while another tool is selected, hold down the spacebar as you drag the image. Change pixel dimensions of an image. Changing an image's pixel dimensions affects not only its on-screen size but also its image quality and its printed characteristics, either its printed dimensions or its image resolution. 1. Choose Image, Image Size. 2. To maintain the current ratio of pixel width to pixel height, select Constrain Proportions. This option automatically updates the width as you change the height and vice versa. 3. Under Pixel Dimensions, enter values for width and height. To enter values as percentages of the current dimensions, choose % as the unit of measurement. The new file size for the image appears at the top of the Image Size dialog box, with the old file size in parentheses. 4. Make sure that Resample Image is selected, and choose an interpolation method. 5. If your image has layers with styles applied to them, select Scale Styles to scale the effects in the resized image. This option is available only if you select Constrain Proportions. 6. When you finish setting options, click OK. Determine a suggested resolution for an image. If you plan to print your image using a halftone screen, the range of suitable image resolutions depends on the screen frequency of your output device. Photoshop can determine a recommended image resolution based on the screen frequency of your output device. 1. Choose Image, Image Size. 2. Click Auto. 3. For Screen, enter the screen frequency for the output device. If necessary, choose a different unit of measurement. Note that the screen value is used only to calculate the image resolution, not to set the screen for printing. 4. For quality, select an option. Draft produces a resolution that is the same as the screen frequency, no lower than 72 pixels per inch. Good produces a resolution 1.5 times the screen frequency. Best produces a resolution 2 times the screen frequency. View the print size on screen. Do one of the following. Choose View, Print Size. The Hand tool or Zoom tool and click Print Size in the options bar. Resampling. Resampling is changing the amount of image data as you choose either the pixel dimensions or the resolution of an image. When you downsample, decrease the number of pixels, information is deleted from the image. When you resample up, increase the number of pixels or upsample, new pixels are added. You specify an interpolation method to determine how pixels are added or deleted. Keep in mind that resampling can result in poorer image quality. Nearest neighbor. A fast but less precise method that replicates the pixels in an image. This method is for use with illustrations containing edges that are not anti-aliased, to preserve hard edges and produce a smaller file. However, this method can produce jagged effects, which become apparent when you distort or scale an image or perform multiple manipulations on a selection. Bilinear. A method that adds pixels by averaging the color values of surrounding pixels. It produces medium quality results. Bicubic. A slower but more precise method based on an examination of the values of the surrounding pixels. Using more complex calculations, bicubic produces smoother tonal gradations than nearest neighbor or bilinear. Bicubic smoother. A good method for enlarging images based on bicubic interpolation, but designed to produce smoother results. Bicubic sharper. A good method for reducing the size of an image based on bicubic interpolation with enhanced sharpening. This method maintains the detail in a resampled image. If bicubic sharper over-sharpens some areas of an image, try using bicubic. Use the Navigator panel. You use the Navigator panel to quickly change the view of your artwork using a thumbnail display. The colored box in the Navigator, called the Proxy View Area, corresponds to the currently viewable area in the window. Do one or more of the following. To display the Navigator panel, select Window, Navigator. To change the magnification, type a value in the text box. Click the Zoom Out or Zoom In button, or drag the zoom slider. To move the view of an image, drag the proxy view area in the image thumbnail. You can also click the image thumbnail to designate the viewable area. To change the color of the proxy view area, select Panel Options from the panel menu. Select a preset color from the Color pop-up menu, or click the color box to choose a custom color.